The Seventh Tower by Garth Nix. Book 6, The Violet Keystone. Chapter 16. For once, Ebbet was right about where they were. He led Milla and the others farther along the passage that ended in a small room totally dominated by a large metal door with a wheel set in the middle of it.
Here we are, declared Ebbet. Gather close, everyone, gather close. No, closer still, please, Master Blue. Audrys, you do not need to join us. Steam does not hurt shadows.
Jarek did not seem displeased by being called Master Blue, Milla was relieved to see. They all clustered close around Ebbet. When they'd finished shuffling and were all practically shoulder to shoulder, the old chosen raised his hand, and the sunstone ring on his finger suddenly shone with a pure indigo light.
1, 2, around Master Blue,
chanted Ebbet, moving his hand in a complex gesture, a trail of light following the motion.
3, 4, can't take any more.
Milla watched with interest as Ebbet used the light like a weaver would a shuttle, building up threads of light into a solid cloth that wrapped all around the four of them. It extended under their feet, too, and finished with Ebbet bringing it in over the top as well.
Walk with me, stay near,
ordered Ebbet. He shuffled toward the metal door. Then he pushed his hands against the indigo light that surrounded them, and it stretched out without breaking, giving Ebbet indigo mittens. He turned the wheel, but did not open the door, looking to his spirit shadow. It looked back, then slowly slipped under the door. This was not made of the golden metal, Milla observed, for that was impervious to shadows, and there was no crack between floor and door. It was merely iron, or something similar. The feline spirit shadow did not return for a minute or two. Ebbet tapped his foot impatiently and whistled through his teeth. Finally, the spirit shadow slipped back out and nodded its great maned head. Ebbet opened the door, and steam poured out all over them. The 3 ice carls started, but the steam was repelled by the indigo light, splashing harmlessly around them. Beyond the door, Milla could just see a deep shaft filled with steam. Obviously, this was one of the risers Ebbet had mentioned.
In step now, said Ebbet. Don't think we'll fall, because we have a very pretty floor.
He stepped off with the others shuffling behind. For an instant, it looked like he would fall, despite his words, with the indigo light giving way under his feet. But it simply bounced a little, and supported both him and the others as they followed him into the shaft. The 2 spirit shadows slid along the wall, and then slowly slipped through the envelope of light that surrounded Ebbet and the ice carls.
It tickles,
giggled Audrys as she rose up next to Milla.
Tickly light. Great gouts of steam,
muttered Ebbet as he shuffled around and closed the door behind them, the indigo light still wrapping his hands when he pushed against it.
Huge, great gusts of great steam. That's what we want.
Nothing happened for another minute.
Gigantic gusts,
said Ebbet hopefully.
Super surges. Gales. Hurricanes.
Still, nothing happened.
What is wrong with the stupid steam system?
Ebbet shouted. He knelt down and put his ear to the glowing floor of light.
Come, steam, come!
Milla opened her mouth to ask Ebbet what he was doing, but before she could speak, a titanic force hit the envelope and threw them all against the walls and floor as they accelerated at a speed none of the ice carls could have imagined. Desperately, they clung to one another and tried to get upright again as the envelope rocketed up.
Steam, glorious steam, there's nothing quite white as it,
sang Ebbet. Then he started counting very loudly. It was hard to hear him, with the roar of the steam and the whoosh the envelope made as they went faster and faster and faster. Milla began to worry that they would collide with something at the very top of the shaft and be splintered into pieces, like an ice ship running into a rock under full sail. As Ebbet counted 60, he grabbed the indigo wall in front of him and pulled it in as hard as he could to let the steam that had propelled them rush past the envelope. At the same time, his spirit shadow sunk its rear claws into the floor and reached out through the light to sink its front claws into the stone wall of the shaft. With a terrible, bone-tingling screech, the envelope skidded to a halt, with everyone ended up tumbled together on the floor.
Perfect,
declared Ebbet proudly as he crawled out from under Milla and Mullen. He reached across, the light stretching around his hands, and grasped the locking wheel of another door.
Violet 1, as promised.
Stand ready, ordered Milla sharply as Ebbet spun the wheel. She raised her hand, and the talon started to glow with its harsh red-gold light. Jarek unwound his chain. Mullen stepped behind them. Steam spiraled out as they left the riser and stepped out into an antechamber with a corridor beyond. Ebbet slammed the door behind them, spun the wheel, then waited a few seconds for the steam to dissipate before dismissing the protective envelope with a pulse of multicolored light from his sunstone. There was no sign of any chosen or underfolk. Jarek went to the corner and looked out cautiously, then signed that there were no enemies in sight.
Right here,
said Ebbet. He pointed left with his right hand, then used his left hand to pick up his right hand and point it right.
That way.
Lead on, Jarek, ordered Milla.
This will take us to the grand parade,
said Ebbet.
From there we can get to the audience chamber, and Milla can open the doors for us.
Milla nodded. She didn't ask Ebbet why she would have to open the doors. It was better not to ask. He would probably want her to sweep the floor next.